I'm starting off by bending a small hook in a short length of 26 gauge wire. Now I have some paste which I've coloured to a deep red colour, and I'm just going to pinch off a ball measuring between 6mm and 10mm in size. Just rolling the ball so that it's nice and smooth without any creases in my hand. Then I'm going to dip the hooked end of the wire into some egg white, wipe off the excess and insert that into my ball of paste. I'm just pinching around the base to secure it, so we want to close that gap. If it's a bit sticky, then you can add a little bit of corn flour. And I've just thinned a bit of the paste down the wire to make sure that it dries nice and firmly. Now I'm going to take the wide end of my Dresden tool and I'm just going to pull out 5 times, just rotating the top of the berry as I go around to create this effect. So I've just stretched out the little bit of paste. And we've essentially got 5 points of the star stretched out there. I'm now going to stretch it out further using the narrow end of my Dresden tool. So each of those points I'm just going to stretch out once again. Then we're just going to slightly push and close this gap at the top to bring the star together. Then this will just get set aside to dry completely. And here's a selection of other berries that I've made in varying sizes. I've created a total of 12 for my arrangement. I'm going to be using this Aquilegia and Chrysanthemum leaf cutters from Valley Cutter Company. So I've got some paste here which I've coloured to a sort of rusty brown colour, and I'm just going to rub some white vegetable fat over the 3 grooves on my veining board. Then rolling my paste into a sausage shape, I'm going to press it over these 3 grooves and start to roll it out. So rolling out your paste to a thickness of about 1mm, then flip it over to reveal the veins, and we're going to cut out a mixture of these leaves. Now taking some more wire, I've got a 26 gauge here, or you could use a 28 gauge if you wish. Just dipping the end in some egg white, wiping off the excess and inserting into the vein before giving it a bit of a pinch at the bottom. Then place the leaves vein side down and take your ball tool, just going to slightly stretch out and thin the edges of the leaves. Then press them into a leaf veiner. This is actually a rose leaf veiner from Squire's Kitchen, but you could use anything similar to this. We're just looking for a generic leaf veining effect. So I'm placing them onto my foam drying pad, ensuring that they have a nice bit of movement to them. We don't want them drying flat. To dust my berries, I'm using a mixture of this red and burgundy. And I'm just going to dust all over with this tone. And repeat for all of your berries. Once all of your berries are dusted red, we're now going to add some darker bits to the end of the berry. So I've got some chocolate brown here, and I'm just going to add a bit of high proof alcohol to create a paint. And we're just going to dust into the tip, the sort of star tip of our berry with this dark brown. So I've dusted the inside, and I'm also dusting the outside of these sort of star tips that we created with our Dresden tool. Now to dust our leaves, I'm using a mixture of different sort of red rusty tones, some yellows and a little bit of green as well. And I'm just mixing and blending as I go with these autumnal colours. Now taking the same brown paint from before, I'm going to add a few sort of flecks onto the leaf. So I'm just painting in some delicate little dots and flecks, and I'm also catching the edge of the leaf with this dark brown colour. If you find that your brown isn't dark enough, you can also add a touch of black into it to help darken it. And I'm doing the same on the front and the back, but keeping the dots and the areas that I colour nice and random. Now, to make our twiggy stem, I've got a selection of different thicknesses of wires here, and these are all just offcuts that I've saved from other projects. So I've got some brown floral tape, and I'm just going to tape the end of some of the wires to create a little twiggy effect. If you want to create some uneven areas on the twig, then you can bunch some of the tape together to create sort of knobbly bits like I have done here. Now that I've got a good selection of twigs, I'm starting off with a longer piece of wire, and I'm just going to add some little twiggy bits in varying sizes to create this sort of branch-like effect. And I'm going to add in a leaf, and then I'll create my first bunch of berries just by taking a selection. I've taken 5 here, and I'm just going to bunch them together with a bit of brown tape. I'm not worrying about the colour of the stems at the moment because we'll go in and paint them later. So tape them together into a bunch, and then they're ready to add to your stem. Once I've added my set of berries, I'm going to go in with a larger leaf now. Then again, I'm bunching the tape just to give it a bit of variation in the thickness of the stem. And then I'm going in with a smaller leaf and another twiggy branch bit. Now I'm going to add a second set of berries. So for this one, I'm just going to go in with 3. And then I'm going to add these 4 as a second group. So starting another stem with some of this tape. I can now combine these stems together to make more of an established branch. And I'm just thickening up the end of my stem as well. So you can then use your pliers just to bend everything into position and create some movement in the twigs. Then I'm just adding a drop of alcohol to my paint from before because it's dried up, and I'm just going to paint each of these exposed white stems of the leaves and the berries in this dark brown colour. Now I'm just going to lightly spray everything with my confectioner's glaze, and this is your finished Hawthorn inspired foliage and berries.